Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Welcome back to our channel. After a comprehensive overview about the initial 35 types of angels created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are now moving towards the al-Mu'iyyid, the angels of divine support. The Malaikat al-Mu'iyyid are a special category of angels whose primary role is to bring divine assistance, strength, and victory to believers. The term Mu'iyyid means to strengthen, to support, to reinforce. These angels are not assigned permanently like the Hafaza, the guardian angels, or the Kiraman Katibin, the recording angels, but are sent by Allah at specific times of need, especially in moments of trial, difficulty, or battle. The clearest example is found in the Battle of Badr, when Allah sent thousands of angels to fight alongside the Muslims, granting them courage and striking fear into the hearts of the disbelievers. These angels were not only warriors, but also sources of tranquility and reassurance, calming the believers' hearts so they would not waver. In Sufi tradition, Malākkāt al-Mu'iyyid are seen as hidden supporters who strengthen seekers on the path of Allah, especially when they face spiritual battles against the nafs, meaning ego, shaitan, and worldly temptations. Just as these angels gave physical victory in battles, they now provide spiritual victory in the struggle of the soul, assisting those who are steadfast in dhikr, salah, and obedience. Thus, Malākkāt al-Mu'iyyid represent Allah's promise of aid. Whenever believers stand sincerely for truth, whether in outward defense of Islam or in inward purification of the self, divine support through these angels becomes a reality. Quranic mentions Battle of Badr, Allah's promise of support through angels as stated in Surah Al-Anfāl verse 9. Remember when you sought the help of your Lord and He answered you, "Indeed, I will reinforce you with 1,000 from the angels following one another." In Surah Al-Anfāl verse 10. And Allah made it not but good tidings, and so that your hearts would be at rest thereby. Victory is not but from Allah. Indeed, Allah is exalted in might and wise. Reinforcement at Badr and beyond. As stated in Surah Al-Imran, verses 123 to 125. And already had Allah given you victory at Badr, while you were few in number. So fear Allah that you may be grateful. Remember when you said to the believers, "Is it not sufficient for you that your Lord should reinforce you with 3,000 angels sent down?" Yes, if you remain patient and conscious of Allah, and the enemy comes upon you, attacking in rage, your Lord will reinforce you with 5,000 angels having marks of distinction. The tranquility meaning Sakina and angelic reassurance. As stated in Surah At-Tawbah verse 26. Then Allah sent down His tranquility upon His messenger and upon the believers, and sent down soldiers, angels, whom you did not see. And He punished those who disbelieve, and that is the recompense of the disbelievers. And in Surah At-Tawbah 25 and 26, indeed, Allah had given you victory in many regions, and even on the day of Hunan, when your great number pleased you, but it did not avail you at all. Then Allah sent down His tranquility upon His messenger and upon the believers, and sent down soldiers, angels whom you did not see, and punished those who disbelieved. Here scholars say soldiers you did not see refers to angels of support. In our previous videos, we also explored the verse on how Allah created every living thing from water, the creation of the waters above the dome and below the flat earth, the firmament dome above the flat earth, actual shape of the earth according to the Quran and Islamic cosmology, primordial waters of the heavens, the kursi, meaning the footstool of Allah, the Arsh meaning the throne of Allah, Law al-Mahfuz meaning the sacred tablet, the second creation of Allah, Al-Kalam, why Allah created the universe, the first creation of Allah, the 7 portals and dimensions of the universe, and discussed where Allah was before He created the universe. If you haven't watched them yet, please do. Now, let's continue. Hadith mentions angels fighting at Badr as stated in Sahih Muslim, Hadith 1763. Hazrat Ibn Abbas reported, on the day of Badr, while a Muslim man was pursuing one of the idolaters, he heard the sound of a whip above him and the voice of a rider saying, "Go forth, Hizam." He turned and saw the idolater had fallen to the ground with his face split open as if struck by a whip. The man came to the Prophet and told him. The Prophet said, "You have told the truth. That was from the reinforcements of the third heaven." Angels descending with marks in battle stated in Sahih Muslim, Hadith 1763. Hazrat Abu Usaid Malik ibn Rabia said at Badr, "Had I been with you today, I would have shown you the valley where the angels appeared, wearing white and marked between the shoulders." Allah's unseen help at Badr, as stated in Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 3995 and Sahih Muslim Hadith 1762. The Prophet said, "This is Jibreel, holding the head of his horse, equipped with arms for battle, tranquility and angelic calmness as stated in Musnad Ahmad and Sahih Muslim." The Prophet said at Badr, "O Allah, if this group is destroyed, you will not be worshipped on earth." Then he fell into prostration, and Allah revealed, "Indeed, I will reinforce you with 1,000 angels, rank after rank, description and numbers of al-Mu'iyyid." The descriptions of the Malaikat al-Mu'iyyid in Quran and Hadith paint a vivid image of their majesty, discipline, and overwhelming numbers. These angels are not permanently stationed around humans like the angels Hafaza or Kiraman Katibin, but are dispatched by Allah in times of need, whether in physical battles or spiritual struggles. In the Battle of Badr, the Quran confirms that 1,000 angels were initially sent, rank after rank, meaning murdafin, arranged in formations like soldiers. Later verses state that Allah promised 3,000 angels, and if the believers remained patient and steadfast, He would reinforce them with 5,000 angels marked with distinction. These marks are described in Tafsir and Hadith as white turbans trailing down their backs, a sign of their divine mission. Companions at Badr reported seeing them dressed in white garments, with radiant faces, riding swift horses, and some wielding whips or swords of light. Hazrat Ibn Abbas narrated the famous incident of hearing the cry, "Hazam," the name of one of these angels' horses, followed by the immediate fall of an enemy struck by unseen force. Their appearance was awe-inspiring yet reassuring, luminous beings dressed like warriors, descending in disciplined ranks, filling the battlefield with an unseen presence that struck terror into the hearts of the disbelievers while bringing calm to the believers. Some narrations state they bore distinct banners of light and had marks on their shoulders, so the companions could distinguish them from ordinary fighters. Their numbers, although mentioned as 1, 3, or 5,000, symbolize Allah's unlimited reinforcements, for if He willed, all of creation would serve His cause. In truth, it was not the numbers alone, but the divine support embodied by these angels that secured victory. They are described as swift, disciplined, radiant, and obedient, embodying the strength of Allah's will in times of crisis. In Sufi commentary, these angels are not limited to the battlefield of Badr, but continued to descend upon hearts during the inner battle against the nafs, the ego. Just as thousands of luminous soldiers once fought alongside the Prophet, today they appear as unseen reinforcements of strength, serenity and courage for those who struggle sincerely for Allah's sake. Thus, the Malā'ikat al-Mu'iyyid are remembered as armies of light, whose ranks remain countless and whose presence continues wherever truth is upheld. Roll with the prophets. The Malā'ikat al-Mu'iyyid did not only descend at the time of the Prophet Muhammad. Across the history of prophets, these angels of divine reinforcement have been dispatched by Allah to strengthen, protect, and assist His chosen messengers whenever the weight of their mission became heavy or their communities opposed them violently. Their role was never to replace the Prophet's struggle, but to confirm Allah's promise of victory, reassure their hearts, and manifest unseen support that reminded them and their people of divine protection. With Prophet Ibrahim alayhi as-salam, when he was cast into the blazing fire by Nimrod's men, Allah sent His command as stated in Surah Al-Anfāl, verse 69, O fire, be coolness and safety upon Ibrahim. Tafsir scholars note that angels descended with this command surrounding Prophet Ibrahim with protection, though only Allah's word could change the fire itself. These are considered part of the Malā'ikat al-Mu'iyyid, angels whose descent reassured Ibrahim and carried out Allah's support in the face of destruction. With Prophet Lut alayhi as-salam, when his people plotted against him, Allah sent angels in human form who both reassured Lut and carried out the divine punishment against his people. They were more than messengers of doom. They were also mu'ayyidun, supporters, protecting the Prophet and guiding him to safety. With Prophet Musa alayhi as-salam, at the Red Sea when Pharaoh's army pursued the Israelites, Allah promised His support as stated in Surah Taha, verses 68 to 69. Do not fear, you are the superior. Throw what is in your right hand. Angels of support are described in some reports as surrounding Musa, strengthening his heart as the sea parted and then engulfed Pharaoh. In addition, classical tafsir mentions that when Musa feared his mission to Pharaoh, Allah told him, as stated in Surah 28 verse 35, we will strengthen your arm with your brother. And some scholars say angels too were dispatched to fortify his resolve. With Prophet Isa alayhi as-salam, the Quran mentions in Surah 3 verse 55, remember when Allah said, O Isa, son of Maryam, I will take you and raise you to myself and purify you from those who disbelieve and make those who follow you above those who disbelieve until the day of resurrection. Here, angels of support carried him from danger, strengthening his mission even as his enemies plotted against him. With Prophet Muhammad, the clearest manifestation was at the Battle of Badr, where thousands of angels descended to fight alongside the Muslims. At Uhud, though angels were ready, they did not intervene in the same way, teaching the Ummah that divine support depends on steadfastness. At Hunain, they again descended, calming the believers after panic struck. Beyond battles, the Prophet himself was comforted by Angel Jibril, the chief of the angels of support, when Quraysh rejected him, with revelations such as in Surah 93 verse 3, your Lord has not forsaken you, nor has He hated you. In Tasawwufi interpretation, Malā'ikat al-Mu'iyyid with the Prophet symbolized the reality that every divine mission is too heavy for a human alone. Allah's unseen armies always descend to uphold His promise. The Prophet's visible struggles were always accompanied by invisible reinforcements, showing that guidance is carried not just by human effort, but by divine aid manifesting through these angels. The role of Malak al-Mu'ayyid in Tasawwuf and Tariqat, the Malaikat al-Mu'ayyid, the angels of divine support, are seen not only as historical beings who aided prophets in outward battles, but as ongoing, living forces of spiritual reinforcement that descend upon the seekers of Allah in their inner struggles. The Tasawwufi masters interpret their presence as an answer to the believer's sincerity, especially when he engages in the greater jihad, meaning jihad al-nafs, the battle against the ego, pride, anger, lust, greed and heedlessness. Just as Allah sent armies of angels to Badr to strengthen the companions outwardly, He continues to send unseen angels of support to the hearts of His friends, meaning Aliyah, and those sincerely walking the path of purification. 1. Malak al-Mu'ayyid in the inner jihad. Tasawwufi scholars often say, every seeker has his own Badr. This means the heart is a battlefield between the armies of light, meaning angelic inspiration, and the armies of darkness, meaning nafs and shaitan. The angels of Mu'ayyid descend upon the heart when the seeker turns to Allah with dhikr, prayer, muraqabah, meaning meditation and obedience. Their role is to bring sakina, meaning tranquility when the seeker is overwhelmed with doubt or fear, strengthen the will against temptation, just as they strengthen the believers against physical enemies. Strike down the enemies of the soul, pride, arrogance, anger, the way they struck down the enemies of Islam at Badr. 2. Linked to the Kamil Murshid in Tariqat orders, the perfect spiritual guide. The al-Murshid al-Kamil is described as the earthly manifestation of divine aid because he directs the disciple toward continuous remembrance, meaning dhikr. Through him, the seeker learns the practice of dhikr with every breath, making his nafas, meaning breath, a testimony of tawheed. This practice is believed to attract Malak al-Mu'ayyid, for angels are drawn to the sound of Allah's name, just as moths are drawn to light. The seeker's breath then becomes like a soldier of Allah, continuously striking against the ego, and his heart becomes a fortress guarded by angelic armies. 3. Spiritual symbolism of Malak al-Mu'ayyid. The great Tasawwufi and Tariqat masters interpret these angels symbolically as well. Imam al-Ghazali described them as the lights of certainty that descend upon the heart when faith is tested. Maulana Rumi taught, if you conquer your nafs, you are greater than the angels, for the angels never had a body to fight against. Here, Malak al-Mu'ayyid are seen as helpers in that conquest, giving human beings the chance to rise above angels in rank. Hazrat Ibn Arabi explained that every murid, meaning the seeker, has unseen helpers assigned to him, and when he reaches certain spiritual stations, angelic reinforcements descend like at Badr, only this time the battle is inward. 4. Angels of Mu'ayyid and states of the seeker in moments of khalwa, meaning seclusion, when the seeker is alone in dhikr, angels of Mu'ayyid are believed to circle around him, recording his sincerity and strengthening his spirit. During maqamat, the spiritual stations such as Tawbah, meaning repentance, Sabr, meaning patience, and Tawakkul, meaning trust, angels descend to anchor him in these virtues. At the stage of fana, meaning annihilation in Allah, Sufis say that the seeker is surrounded by armies of light, protecting him from being consumed by ego or delusion. 5. Present role for believers. Even today, the concept of Malak al-Mu'ayyid reminds seekers that whenever they feel overwhelmed, whether in physical hardship, spiritual weakness, or emotional distress, Allah's support is closer than they think. Angels are continuously sent to strengthen the hearts of the sincere. Every dhikr, every dua, every tear shed in solitude is like a call to the unseen armies of Allah, who then descend with tranquility, hope and strength. In summary, in Tasawwuf, Malak al-Mu'ayyid are not only heavenly soldiers of the past, but living forces of light that descend into the heart of every seeker who strives for Allah. They are the companions of the Murshid's guidance, the protectors of the Dhikr's breath, and the warriors of the soul's battlefield, making man capable of rising even higher than angels if he conquers his nafs. Comments of Tasawwufi Adi-Tariqat masters Imam al-Ghazali in his Ihya Ulum al-Din. Ghazali explains that the heart is like a battlefield. On one side stand the Junud al-Rahman, meaning armies of the merciful, the angelic inspirations, and on the other, the Junud al-Shaitan, the armies of Satan, the whispers of the nafs and devils. He writes, whenever a servant turns to Allah in sincerity, the angels of support descend into his heart, bringing light, certainty, and steadfastness. Imam Ghazali emphasizes that these angels aid the believer in resisting pride, envy, and arrogance, just as they once aided the Muslims in resisting their enemies at Badr. Ibn Arabi. In the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, Ibn Arabi describes that every seeker, meaning murid, has angels appointed to him, and when he advances in his spiritual journey, Allah sends further angelic reinforcements. When the servant is about to be overcome by his lower self, Allah strengthens him with angels of aid, Malaikat al-Tayyid, who preserve his station until he ascends. He calls them armies of light, meaning Junud al-Nur, and sees them as necessary companions of the awliya and saints, just as armies of angels descended for the prophets. Hazrat Ibn Arabi stresses that the greater the trial a saint endures, the greater the descent of the supporting angels. Sheikh Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani, in his Fath al-Rabbani, he speaks of the unseen helpers of the seeker. When you struggle against your ego in obedience, you will find helpers from the unseen. Angels who strengthen your patience, fill your heart with courage, and defend you from despair. These are the soldiers of Allah. He often reminded disciples that the armies of Allah are countless, quoting the Quran, and none knows the soldiers of your Lord except He. According to Hazrat Jilani, a seeker who persists in dhikr and sincerity becomes surrounded by these angelic forces which repel the whispers of shaitan and illuminate his path. Hazrat Shams al-Tabriz. Hazrat Shams, the Murshid of Maulana Rumi, described angels of support in symbolic language. When the light of Allah's love strikes the heart, it is as though armies of angels descend, carrying banners of truth. They drive out every shadow of doubt. He taught that the presence of these angels is not only in moments of outward battle, but in the quiet struggles of love, sincerity, and longing for Allah. To Hazrat Shams, these angels were manifestations of divine intimacy, signs that Allah does not abandon His lovers in their struggles. Maulana Jalal al-Din Rumi. Maulana Rumi, the student of Hazrat Shams Tabriz, constantly used the metaphor of angels to describe inner strength. If you conquer your nafs, you are greater than the angels, for the angels never had to fight a body of clay. In the Mathnawi, he portrays the Malak al-Mu'ayyid as unseen warriors within the soul. Every breath taken with remembrance is like an angel descending with a sword of light, cutting the throat of the ego. He often reminded seekers that when one walks the path of sincerity, the whole universe conspires in your aid, and the angels of heaven descend to lift your burden. Across these masters, several themes repeat. The heart is a battlefield where angels of support oppose the whispers of the ego and Satan. Angels descend more intensely in proportion to the believer's sincerity and the heaviness of his trial. The al-Mu'iyyid is a channel for these angelic supports, guiding the seeker into states where such aid becomes constant. To overcome the nafs is to rise above angels in rank, for angels are pure by nature, but man achieves purity through struggle, aided by armies of light. Possibility of seeing them in real life. Most Tasawwufi masters agree that the Malaikat, al-Mu'iyyid, the angels of divine support, usually operate unseen because their role is to strengthen hearts, not to manifest outwardly. However, they also teach that if a seeker's heart becomes purified through taqwa, dhikr, and muraqabah, meaning watchfulness, the veils between the unseen and the seen can be lifted by Allah's permission. This is not a matter of choice, but a divine gift. Some saints have reported feeling an unexplainable strength descend upon them in times of hardship, a sign of these angels' presence. In rarer cases, awliya, the friends of Allah, have described seeing figures of light in moments of intense dhikr or crisis. These are not like the clear, winged forms of angels in art, but radiant, indescribable forms that the heart recognizes rather than the eyes. According to Tasawwufi masters, such real-life visions are exceptional and always accompanied by humility and increased devotion. In dreams are one of the most common means through which these angels manifest. The Prophet said, "A true dream is one of 46 paths of prophethood." Tasawwufi masters say that when a believer is engaged in constant remembrance and sincerity, the angelic reinforcements he receives during waking hours may appear symbolically in his dreams as armies of light, white birds, luminous warriors, or comforting presences bringing tranquility. For example, a seeker struggling against his ego might dream of being supported in battle by unknown allies or see banners of light. Masters interpret this as a sign that Malak al-Mu'iyyid has descended to help his inner struggle. In Kashf, meaning spiritual unveiling. Kashf is the state in which the inner eye, meaning basira, of the heart is opened. Sufi masters teach, when a seeker's heart is polished through dhikr, istighfar, meaning repentance and service, he may reach a stage where he perceives the unseen without dreaming or sleeping. In this state, Malak al-Mu'iyyid may appear as lights, voices, or inner inspirations that feel more real than outward reality. Hazrat Ibn Arabi writes in Futuhat al-Makkiyah, "The armies of the unseen support descend as pure meanings before they take any form. The knower perceives them in his heart as knowledge and power." However, true kash is accompanied by deep humility, shukr meaning gratitude, and increased adherence to sharia, never by pride or delusion. If pride appears, the vision is considered a test or a deception rather than a gift. Guidance from the Sufi masters. Hazrat Imam Ghazali warned against seeking angelic visions. Instead, he said, "Focus on purifying your heart and angels will descend naturally." Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani taught that these angels are felt as breaths of strength or winds of courage more than as visible forms. Maulana Rumi described them poetically, "The armies of light that descend into the heart when love for Allah burns strong." Hazrat Shams Tabriz said the angels of support are veils of Allah's tenderness, and one who sees them has already been seen by them first. They say, real-life appearances are rare and purely by Allah's permission, usually to prophets or perfected saints. Dream appearance can be more common, usually symbolic, requires a trained guide, murshid, to interpret. Kashf appearance occurs when the seeker's heart is illuminated. Angels are perceived as lights, inner voices of support, or direct inspirations. Protection is necessary, which is through remaining under the guidance of a Kamil Murshid, so that any vision can be discerned correctly, as Shaitan can also imitate forms. Role in the grave. After death, every soul experiences the questioning of Munkar and Nakir. This is a moment of awe and terror. While angels Munkar and Nakir test the truth of one's faith, the Malaikat al-Mu'iyyid do not perform the questioning. Rather, their role is to support the believer's heart so that he can answer with firmness. The Quran says in Surah 14 verse 27, Allah will make firm those who believe with the firm word in this worldly life and in the hereafter. According to many scholars, the firmness mentioned here is granted through the descent of angelic aid, including angels of support who strengthen the believer's tongue to say, Allahu Rabbi, Muhammadun Rasuli, Al-Islam Dini. The righteous may also feel tranquility in the grave, where angels of support expand the space, light it with nur, and bring fragrances from paradise. This is not the work of the recording angels, but of the angelic hosts whose function is to reassure and comfort. Tasawwufi Adi Tariqat scholars describe this as the Bada of the grave. The believer is surrounded by enemies of doubt and terror, but unseen armies descend to grant him victory. Role in Barzakh. Barzakh is the realm between death and resurrection, where the soul resides in waiting. It is a realm of testing, reflection, and purification. Here, Malak al-Mu'iyyid continue their function of support. For the believers, they keep company, shielding them from loneliness, whispering divine praises, and filling the soul with anticipation for meeting Allah. For the friends of Allah, meaning awliya, they are said to increase their stations, carrying their souls through gardens of light and enabling them to witness glimpses of the divine mercy. Hazrat Ibn Arabi in Futuhat al-Makkiyah wrote, in Barzakh, the souls are accompanied by angels who mirror their states. For the purified, these are the angels of aid, who feed them with the light of remembrance. Maulana Rumi describes this symbolically. When the body is in the dust, armies of light circle the soul like moths around a candle, singing songs of fidelity until the dawn of resurrection. Thus, in Barzakh, Malak al-Mu'iyyid act as companions and protectors, preventing despair and preparing the soul for the final encounter. Role on the day of Qiyamah, on the day of resurrection. The descent of angels will be vast and overwhelming. The Quran describes in Surah 25 verse 25, on the day the heaven will split open with clouds, and the angels will be sent down in successive ranks. And Surah 89 verse 22, and your Lord will come with angels rank upon rank. The Malā'ikat al-Mu'iyyid are among these hosts, and their functions on that day are described by scholars as follows. They will descend upon the believers who are steadfast, reminding them of their patience and rewarding them with light. The Quran states in Surah 41 verse 30, indeed, those who have said, our Lord is Allah, and then remain steadfast, the angels will descend upon them, saying, do not fear and do not grieve, but receive good tidings of paradise which you were promised. They protect the Ummah of Muhammad. Many Tasawwufi commentaries state that these angels will gather around the Prophet and his community, shielding them from terror while awaiting intercession. They carry the banners of victory, just as at Badr they will appear as armies of light. Their role will not be to fight, but to testify that the believers remain faithful and to honor them before creation. They assist in crossing the Sirat, the bridge, as some narrations say that the angels will help guide the believers across the bridge over hellfire, ensuring their safe passage. They standing at the throne. As in Tasawwufi imagery, these angels are seen among those who circle the arsh, supporting the throne's shade, which will cover 7 categories of people as mentioned in Hadith. Hazrat Imam al-Ghazali says the descent of angels in the grave and Qiyamah is a reflection of what the soul cultivated in the dunya. If you nurture the light of dhikr, you will find armies of angels. If not, you will be left to the whispers of shaitan. Hazrat Abd al-Qadir Jilani compared Malak al-Mu'ayyid in the grave to soldiers standing guard over a king's palace, guarding the believer's soul from intrusion. Maulana Rumi says, on the day of rising, when fear melts mountains, do not be afraid, for the armies that once fought with you in secret will now appear before your eyes. Protection and awareness. Through a Kamil Murshid, the Malaikat al-Mu'ayyid, the angels of divine support, are constant unseen helpers sent by Allah to strengthen, guide, and protect the believer, especially in moments of spiritual struggle, worldly hardship, and on the path of seeking Allah's nearness. However, connecting with their support requires purification of the heart, spiritual readiness, and guidance under a Kamil Murshid, perfect spiritual guide. The Murshid serves as the bridge between the unseen and the seeker. A purified heart may naturally attract the support of Malak al-Mu'ayyid, but without proper guidance, the seeker can be misled by illusion, nafs, or shaitan. The Murshid trains the disciple in muraqabah, meaning spiritual watchfulness, dhikr, and proper breathing techniques, aligning the soul with divine light so that the angel's presence becomes tangible as strength, inspiration, and spiritual resilience. In Tasawwufi teachings, it is said, the support of Malak al-Mu'ayyid descends upon those whose hearts are mirrors of the Murshid's guidance. They need not call them. They are called by their actions. Dhikr and breath awareness, nafas al-Rahma, under a Murshid guidance, help invite the angels of support. Continuous remembrance of Allah with each breath aligns the soul with divine support. Example, reciting La ilaha illallah on the inhalation and Muhammadur Rasulullah on the exhalation, a practice emphasized in Naqshbandi and Chishti orders, and other types of zikr practiced by other murshids and orders can be recited necessarily under the guidance of a murshid and his permission and not on self-decisions. The murshid observes and corrects the disciple's technique to ensure the heart becomes receptive to angelic reinforcement. The murshid helps with understanding the Quran, gives several important verses to the seekers aligning only through the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. The murshid guides the disciple to visualize angels descending as armies of light, strengthening his heart in facing temptations, fear, or worldly distractions. These visualizations are symbolic, but help the disciple internalize the presence of Malak al-Mu'ayyid, which the Tariqat masters describe as a form of spiritual fortification. The Murshid instructs cultivating sabr, meaning patience, and shukr, meaning gratitude, because angels of support descend more freely upon hearts that are content and patient. A Kamil Murshid teaches acts that invite divine support and avoids acts that repel it, including pride, arrogance, or self-righteousness, which block angelic aid, and are the traits of Iblis and Shayateen. Excessive attachment to worldly desires, neglect of obligatory duties like namaz, zakat, fasting, By following the Murshid's guidance, the disciple's heart is strengthened, shielded from shaitan, and open to receiving the protective presence of Malak al-Mu'ayyid, especially in times of trial, spiritual attacks, or inner struggle. Therefore, a Kamil Murshid helps inner reassurance in the face of fear, doubt, or calamity, aids spiritual courage to act in alignment with divine will, helps in heightened intuition and inspiration, as the angels often communicate guidance through subtle inspirations, meaning ilham, strength to resist nafs and shaitan, making the believer resilient in both the spiritual and worldly spheres. Hazrat Ibn Arabi emphasizes that the Murshid does not merely transmit knowledge, but transfers the soul into alignment with unseen supports, including Malak al-Mu'ayyid. Maulana Rumi metaphorically described the Murshid as a magnet. When the heart is drawn to the perfect guide, unseen wings descend to lift it beyond fear and despair. Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani taught that angels of support only strengthen those who follow the Murshid with sincerity, because the Murshid mediates the divine connection to the seeker. A Murshid awakens the seeker to the reality that every breath is a form shaped by zikr. By teaching breath zikr, the Murshid transforms the human into a being of continuous remembrance, surpassing angels. A Kamil Murshid, meaning a perfect spiritual guide, is considered in Tasawwuf the inheritor of the Prophet, guiding seekers on the path from clay, meaning nafs, to light, meaning ruh. The Kamil Murshid helps awaken this nafas al-Rahman, meaning breath of the All-Merciful, within the disciple. Also as stated in Surah Kaf verse 17, whoever Allah guides is truly guided, but whoever He leaves to stray, you will never find for them a Murshid, meaning a spiritual guide. Angels are always in dhikr, but their dhikr is fixed and limited to the forms Allah gave them. Man, however, through guidance of a Murshid, can transform his every breath into dhikr, making his remembrance continuous like angels, and even higher because it comes through free will. In Tariqat, the Murshid teaches Habs al-Nafas, meaning watching the breath, and Zikr Khafi, meaning silent dhikr. Every inhalation and every exhalation affirms Allah and He alone. This makes the seeker live in the constant rhythm of divine presence. Through Quran, the Malaikat, al-Mu'iyyid, angels of divine support, respond to the spiritual states and practices of the believer. Among the most powerful means to attract their support, protection, and guidance is the recitation of the Quran, for it aligns the heart with divine light, strengthens faith, and repels the whisperings of shaitan. Several verses indicate that angels descend to support believers who are steadfast, patient, and engaged in remembrance of Allah, like in Surah Al-Anfāl verses 9 to 12. When you asked help of your Lord, He answered you, I will help you with 1,000 angels, rank upon rank. This describes the descent of unseen angelic armies to strengthen the believers, including the Malak al-Mu'ayyid. In Surah Al-Fath verse 4, it is He who sent down tranquility into the hearts of the believers so that they may increase in faith with His help. Tranquility, meaning sakina, is seen as the angelic reinforcement, which Sufis describe as the presence of support angels in the heart. In Surah Al-Baqarah verse 257, Allah is the protector of those who believe. He brings them out of darkness into light. Here, the light can be understood as both spiritual illumination and angelic protection, where the Malak al-Mu'ayyid shield the believer from spiritual harm. In Surah Al-Asab verse 43, it is He who sends blessings upon you as do His angels. that he may bring you out of darkness into light. Again, angels act as intermediaries of divine aid, guidance, and spiritual elevation. Tasawwufi and Tariqat masters emphasize specific surahs whose recitation strengthens the heart and attracts angelic reinforcement. Surah Al-Fatiha, called the al-Quran, it serves as a shield against unseen attacks and is always recited to invite angelic presence. Ayat al-Kursi protects the believer and attracts the support of the unseen, especially the al-Mu'iyyid. Surah Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, An-Nas, called the Mu'awwidhat, can be recited daily to guard against shaitan and spiritual harm. Angels descend to reinforce this protective shield. Surah Al-Mulk, said to protect the reciter from the torments of grave, as stated by Prophet Muhammad. Giving angelic protection accompanies the soul. Those who recite and reflect upon Surah Al-Baqarah, mainly the last two verses, are described in Tasawwufi commentaries as walking under angelic guidance and illumination. Method of recitation and practice is through the presence of heart, meaning Hudur al-Qalb. Angels descend when the heart is fully present with the words. Mechanical recitation does not attract Malak al-Mu'iyyid. Tariqat masters advise meditating on the meaning of verses, visualizing the descent of supportive angelic forces. In the morning and evening, repeating Ayat al-Kursi, Mu'awwidhat, and selected surahs at dawn and dusk is said to attract angelic armies of support for the whole day-night. During hardship, Surah Al-Fath, Surah Al-Anfāl, and Surah Al-Imran are recited to invoke divine reinforcement during spiritual, psychological, or physical trials. The Murshid instructs combining Quran recitation with dhikr of the name of Allah and controlled breath, meaning Nafas al-Rahma, so that every inhale and exhale aligns the heart with angelic presence. Hence, the Quran, under the Murshid guidance, shields from shaitan and evil whispers, strengthening faith and courage in trials and protection from unseen harm, including during sleep or travel, and elevation of the heart in dhikr and devotion. Acts to do. Regular dhikr and remembrance of Allah, continuous remembrance, especially combining breath with dhikr, meaning Nafas al-Rahma, invites Malak al-Mu'iyyid. Masters like Hazrat Ibn Arabi and Maulana Rumi emphasize that angels descend upon the heart fully immersed in dhikr, daily recitation of Quran and key surahs like Surah Al-Fatiha, Ayat al-Kursi, Mu'awwidhat, meaning Al-Falaq, An-Nas, Surah Al-Mulk, and selected verses from Surah Al-Anfāl and Al-Fath. Recitation with reflection and contemplation strengthens the heart's receptivity to angelic reinforcement. Observing obligatory duties with sincerity. Proper performance of Salah, Zakah, fasting, and Hajj attracts angelic attention and support. Angels of support accompany those steadfast in divine commandments. Cultivating patience, meaning sabr, and gratitude, meaning shukr. Malak al-Mu'iyyid descends more freely on hearts that are content and grateful, even in trials. Seeking guidance from a Kamil Murshid. Alignment with a perfect spiritual guide ensures that the heart is purified and trained to receive angelic support. The Murshid teaches the correct practices, dhikr, breath control, and contemplation to attract these angels. Charitable acts and service to others. Acts of selflessness, helping the needy, and spreading goodness invite divine reinforcement as angels accompany and bless such deeds. Night vigilance and spiritual retreat, meaning itikaf and tahajjud. Staying awake for voluntary prayers at night opens the heart to increased angelic presence. Angels of support descend in abundance on those in the quiet, contemplative state of sincere worship. Acts to avoid arrogance and pride, as these are the traits of Iblis and Shayateen. Claiming superiority or feeling self-righteous blocks al-Mu'iyyid, as angels descend upon humble hearts. Neglect of obligatory duties like failing in salah, zakat, fasting, or other pillars of Islam creates spiritual vulnerability, repelling angelic assistance. Excessive attachment to worldly desires and love for wealth, fame, or power over Allah's remembrance darkens the heart, making it less receptive to angelic presence. Envy, anger, and hatred as al-Mu'iyyid do not descend upon hearts consumed by negative emotions or those plotting harm. Engaging in sin without repentance and persistent sinful behavior without turning to Allah severs the connection with angels, weakening protection. Disobedience to the murshid or spiritual guide and ignoring the guidance of a Kamil murshid blocks the proper channel through which angels of support operate. Neglecting reflection and contemplation. Mechanical worship or recitation fails to attract angelic presence. True support descends only on a heart engaged and aware. Maulana Rumi and other masters repeatedly stress that the angelic support is proportional to the sincerity, awareness, and alignment of the heart. Angels of support do not descend for ritual alone, they respond to the inner state of the believer. So, dear viewers, the Malaikat al-Mu'iyyid occupy a unique and profound position in the unseen world, bridging the divine presence and the spiritual journey of the believer. From the Quranic perspective, they are supporters of faith, descending in armies or as subtle forces to strengthen hearts, protect the righteous, and guide those struggling on the path of obedience to Allah. Their presence is mentioned indirectly in verses such as in Surah Al-Anfāl, Surah Al-Fath, and Surah Al-Ahzab, highlighting that believers are never alone in their struggles. Unseen reinforcements are always near. The Hadith literature corroborates this, emphasizing that angels descend upon believers who seek Allah sincerely, fight against their nafs, and remain steadfast in worship and remembrance. From a tasawwufi perspective, the Malak al-Mu'iyyid are not merely passive watchers, but active agents of spiritual elevation linked deeply with the believer's heart and consciousness. They are described as armies of light, meaning Jund al-Nur, protectors and inspirers who strengthen the soul in moments of trial. Tasawwufi masters from Hazrat Imam Ghazali to Hazrat Ibn Arabi, Sheikh Abd al-Qadir Jilani, Maulana Rumi, and Hazrat Shams Tabriz elaborate on their influence, emphasizing that these angels are drawn to hearts aligned with divine love, humility, and guidance of a Kamil Murshid. Hazrat Ibn Arabi describes them as extensions of divine mercy and strength, descending on hearts tuned to the subtle frequencies of dhikr and contemplation. Rumi's poetic expressions frame them as luminous forces that lift the heart beyond fear and despair, while Sheikh Abd al-Qadir Jilani notes that angels only reinforce the seeker whose inner state reflects sincerity and submission. Hazrat Shams, Tabriz, and Maulana Rumi consistently highlight that such angels assist in the purification and illumination of the heart, making the seeker resilient to the deceptive calls of nafs and shaitan. Practical engagement with Malak al-Mu'iyyid is achieved through a combination of divine practices, guidance from a Kamil Murshid. The Murshid purifies the heart, trains the soul in dhikr, breath awareness meaning, nafas, al-rahma, and contemplation, making it receptive to angelic presence. Quran recitation and surah practice. Surahs such as Al-Fatiha, Ayat al-Kursi, Mu'awwidhat, Al-Mulk, and selected verses from Al-Anfāl and Al-Fath act as magnetic channels for angelic reinforcement. Contemplation of meaning enhances their descent. Acts to do like steadfast worship, patience, gratitude, charity, night vigil, and sincere service to Allah and His creation draw al-Mu'iyyid. Acts to avoid of Iblis, such as pride, arrogance, neglect of obligations, excessive attachment to worldly desires, anger, envy, and disobedience to the Murshid, repel their support. In practical spiritual experience, these angels are often encountered in subtle visions, dreams, or spiritual inspirations, meaning kashf, particularly by advanced seekers. Their influence is felt as peace, courage, insight, and divine reinforcement, enabling believers to navigate spiritual challenges and worldly trials. The angels also accompany the soul in grave, barzakh, and qiyamah, where they serve as protectors, witnesses, and supporters of the believer's journey, reinforcing that divine support does not end with worldly life. The essence of connecting with al-Mu'iyyid lies in cultivating a heart aligned with divine love, humility, and remembrance, guided by a perfected spiritual master. Sincere alignment opens the channels for these angels to act, transforming the seeker's life into one suffused with light, courage, and steadfast faith. Ultimately, the al-Mu'iyyid remind the believer that faith is never solitary, and divine support is always near for those who seek Allah sincerely. They are a testament to Allah's mercy and an invitation for humans to strive for spiritual excellence, purify their hearts, follow the guidance of a Murshid, and harmonize every act, breath, and thought with divine will. Through this alignment, a believer not only attracts protection in this world, but also strengthens their station in the grave, barzakh, and on the day of judgment, embodying the profound promise that divine support accompanies the sincere at every stage of existence. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoy this content and find it beneficial, we kindly ask you to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more authentic, faith-strengthening content. And let's continue this journey of knowledge together. Inshallah, see you in the next video. Allah Hafiz.